One of these days, I need to ask you to make an opening for Breaking Rocks, or like a video or something that I could play after the countdown.
Hmm.
But with that in mind, hello everybody, Drew here, Drew Dead Underground, back, Breaking Rocks, episode 50. Joining me, the one and the only, my younger brother, Desert Nord. Hey, bro.
Hey there.
What the fuck is Disney doing?
What they normally do, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, but on today's show, we'll be talking about the couple of lawsuits that I know of that Disney is going through, or going to be getting hit with, or are getting hit with. We'll be talking about comments that the dev of Baldur's Gate 3 said at the DICE Awards. And we'll be checking out a video of what they actually said, and then our thoughts on that. And also our thoughts on the music video from Tom McDowell that dropped yesterday, The Machine. We'll get into that. I did a reaction to that here on the channel yesterday. Desert Nord has seen that music video himself, and we'll discuss it at the end. But with that in mind, any other topics that you're bringing with you, bro?
Well, there's been a lot of since we've last sort of done this sort of comprehensively. There's been a lot of things. The one I would posit was the completely unsurprising utter failure of Madam Web.
Yeah, we can get into that too.
Yeah, that one I would bring up too, for sure.
But first and foremost, we're going to kick things off with, as Clownfish TV says, a dose of dismal Disney.
Yep.
I think that's how they put it. First and foremost, Gina Carano sues Disney over firing from The Mandalorian, Elon Musk funding the lawsuit.
Yep.
Your thoughts on that, on this going on?
Yeah, well,
Before we read this?
The lawsuit is because Elon decided to say to everybody on Twitter, if you can find examples of people who were fired simply because of their ideology or from some sort of cancellation reason, then hit me up. I will pay the lawyer fees for them. And Gina ended up saying, well, fuck it. That's what happened to me. And so she got in touch with him, and he was like, "Oh, okay, you got fired because of your Twitter post. All right, well, I'm about to fucking defend you then." So that's what happened here.
Well, first of all, in real time, as I was seeing it at the time, her posts weren't as bad as
No, dude, the specific post in question was an anti-Nazi post. That's what made it so stupid.
Yeah.
Specifically anti-Nazi post got her thrown off of her job at Disney.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Honestly. It was bizarre.
Yet some of her counterparts on, I guess you would have to then say, the other side of the aisle, making even worse posts, but left-leaning.
No, you can, dude, if you're on the other side, you can straight up call for violence.
Yeah,
and they'll not fire you.
But not her, because she didn't align with their political views and their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Believe All Women?
Well, I could definitely tell you that...
what happened to believing this one?
They have rules for their own and rules for their enemies, so to speak. And the rules for the enemy is they're already guilty. Just give it time. We'll get them. We'll get them on something. All right. And what I guess she dared to do was bring up what happened in Germany in World War II. How dare she? It's like, guys, you guys bring that up all day long. It's like all you talk about politically. Yeah. It's like your life. But when she does it, somehow she's a horrible, bigot, racist, anti-Semite, whatever, which is not even at all what you could derive from that post. That post wasn't even remotely anti-Semitic. In fact, it was pro-Semitic. So, what do you want? It's just bizarre to see how they reacted to that.
But
They were just waiting for any little thing to get her on, so they could throw her off the employee list.
yeah, and with that in mind, we were right here on the channel covering all of this in real time as it happened,
Mm-hmm.
if you recall. But with all that also in mind, let's get to reading this thing. Actor Gina Carano sues Disney and Lucasfilm on Tuesday. When was this published? February 6th. Okay, so that was, on February 6th, then, is the Tuesday in question. On Tuesday, for firing her from The Mandalorian in 2021 over a social media post in which she compared being a Republican to being Jewish during the Holocaust. That's not true. Because, be, be,
That's a really, really
because
bullshit way of putting it, because that's not what she did.
Yeah, what she did was she refused to put pronouns in her bio, then put beep bop boop or whatever.
No. Even the post they're talking about, okay? Even the post they're
Yeah,
talking about, that post did not refer or
to
specifically even mention Republicans. That was
yeah,
talking about dehumanization of your fellow Americans.
yeah.
Like that was everyone. That post was about anyone dehumanizing their neighbors. That's what that
But
post was about.
also if you go back and watch
Which
all the
tells me they're in favor of that type of thing.
yeah,
That's all that tells me.
but also if you go back and look at all the coverage and everything that happened to Gina, she was put in front of a bunch of LGBTQ whatever people on some Skype call or some shit for
Sure,
Disney.
yeah. No, I know the beep boop thing was like
Yeah,
really
which was why they fired her.
She was a wrong thinker from the get go. That they were already in an uneasy situation having her as on their employ. Okay,
But then again, what do you expect for variety here too?
I mean, if anything, they wanted to scrape together what they considered a valid reason to fire her. That's what they wanted from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hence also,
I mean, they basically hired her with the attitude of like, you better watch it because we'll fire you in a heartbeat if you do anything.
Yeah. And there
like,
was
that's
also
what they did.
And there was also the GoFundMe that was set up to try to get her fired too. So
sure, which is normally not ethical, and you'd think GoFundMe would have actually stopped that type of thing, but no, they didn't because GoFundMe's corrupt.
Well,
we already learned that.
And keep in mind that the donations for the Canadian truckers disappeared
was just
into
canceled,
thin
and the
air.
money wasn't even dispersed to the recipients.
Yeah, and also it wasn't returned to the donators either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
nobody knows where the hell it is.
No, GoFundMe kept it as like a fine or something. I don't, whatever they rationalized it as. They just literally confiscated the donations.
But either way, back to the article here. But this statement here was full of shit. That's not why she was fired. Was a different post entirely, which was also complete bullshit. But the suit filed in California federal court alleges wrongful termination and discrimination, which did happen, as well as demand that the court should force Lucasfilm to recast her and pay at least $75,000 in punitive damages.
Well, I disagree with the recasting and reemploying part. I think in the happy positive side to it is that she doesn't have to suffer working for such a useless company.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I don't think she should want to associate with those people anymore. And people want to talk about that affecting her career negatively. It's like, no, not really. Not as far as I can tell, because unless you're talking about like, oh, well, how do the Hollywood studios think of her now? It's like they already hated her. Like, go back to Deadpool and look. They were talking shit about her back when she was working on that project. They hated her. Mm-hmm. They never liked Gina Carano, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So where's the shocker part come in? Honestly, I mean, I do think they should be punished for what they did to her
Yeah.
legally and financially, because it was absolute employment discrimination and technically illegal.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think she should have to work for them again. I wouldn't want to if I were her because they hate her. They absolutely hate her damn guts.
Yeah.
And that goes for her in the Hollywood circles too. Like, no, none of them like her. So I mean, I wouldn't want to work for somebody that I automatically know doesn't like me,
Yeah.
like for anything. I'd rather just, work with people that do like me, which thankfully now we do have production companies that like her and like people like her. So, I mean, thankfully she doesn't really have to go back to working for Disney. Like, it's not Disney or bust for her.
Yeah.
She can do other things.
But
And I frankly
also,
think she should.
but also, I personally believe that this lawsuit is taking place to expose Disney and the shit that they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
This isn't
yeah.
so much for her getting her job back as like the research and digging part of the lawsuit process is the important part.
Yeah, it's called discovery. Yeah.
The discovery part is why this is taking place. Because Gina and Elon both want Disney's.
Oh yeah, no, Elon
bullshit,
fucking loves it because he's been waiting to go after Disney.
Yeah.
He's mad as hell at those people.
But speaking of Elon here, Elon is funding the suit following his promise to pay for legal actions taken by people claiming discrimination from posts on Twitter/X. However, the posts in question originated on Carano's Instagram stories.
Yeah.
As a sign of X Corp's commitment to free speech, we're proud to provide financial support. And this is a quote from Elon, I think.
Here's the thing, though, that article is being deceptive when they say that, though.
Yeah.
Just because her post originated on Instagram does not mean that's where most people saw it and where Disney's executive people got wind of it. They got wind of it from Twitter.
From X, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, financial support for Gina Carano's lawsuit, empowering her to seek vindication of her free speech rights on X and the ability to work without bullying, harassment, or discrimination, said Joe Benar.
Yeah, no, employers big and small are not supposed to be engaging in creed discrimination. And creed is what you believe, like your opinion. They're not supposed to be basing employment decisions on your personal creed. They're not supposed to do that. That is federally illegal.
So, Carano played Cara Dune, a rebel soldier turned mercenary for the first 2 seasons on The Mandalorian, which streams on Disney Plus. Yay. But she came under immediate criticism when she shared a post from different Instagram account in February 2021. And I guess here's what this person thinks the quote was. Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews in government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views?
It's not different.
Yeah.
It's dehumanization.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That was the exact post at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they actually put the full post in here.
Well, see, they think that putting the full post in there is damning. Oh, that's damning. Oh, look at it. Oh, and it's like, how could you even disagree with that? You are not even a student of history. Do you people not know how to examine historical events at all?
By the way, that post was also in an original post from the Holocaust Museum.
No, I know. That's what makes it even more fucking ironic.
Yeah, so if this is what got Gina fired, then shouldn't the Holocaust Museum have been thrown off Twitter too then?
Well, I mean, if it's not okay when she does it, why is it okay when they do it? What's the difference? Like a valid point is a valid point, regardless of who says it. Shooting the messenger is bullshit.
But the same day as the post, Lucasfilm and UTA, Chronos agency at the time dropped her. UTA, however, is not named in the as a defendant in the lawsuit. The
Well,
case, what's that?
Well, look, the contract stipulations over on that other one, that other employment situation there, the
Yeah,
agency, the contract stipulations at the agency probably talk about social media posts. Okay, now as far as Disney goes, uh, other than a bunch of pissed off fans who thought that that post was somehow offensive, which frankly I think the only way you could be offended by that post is if you're some kind of retarded pro-Nazi person. Honestly,
yeah,
I just can't see it. I mean, I don't get it. Why that was the post? Like of all the things you could say, that was the one that was just way over the line. Oh my god, we can't keep her. Like it makes no sense.
yeah. Here's the important part coming up in just a moment here.
Yeah.
But Carano's lawsuit, which includes several elaborate Star Wars references, says Disney and Lucasfilm made it clear that not only one orthodoxy, did I say that word right?
Yeah.
In throughout speech or action was acceptable in their empire.
Sure, they kept themselves a supposed legal out to say, "Oh well, we could fire you at any time for any reason. We don't care."
And that those who dared to question or failed to fully comply would not be tolerated. The plaintiff points to previous social media posts from Star Wars actors Pedro Pascal, whom, by the way, made a post talking about how when Trump was president, kids were locked in cages and showing a photo of that. Meanwhile, the photo was from when Obama was president,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
claiming that Trump did that.
Mm-hmm.
But and Mark Hamill, in which President Trump and his supporters were compared to Adolf Hitler and Nazis as acts of discrimination on the part of Disney, turning a blind eye to male co-stars' political statements with no financial or professional repercussions. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Variety has reached out to representatives for Disney, Lucasfilm, and Carano for comment. Yeah.
No, yeah, we know there's a double standard. Of course there is. That's the whole point. Is like
Yeah.
this whole thing was about gigantic double standards.
Yeah.
Like any one of their employees, and I'm talking all the way down to like the random staff people. Any one of their employees could absolutely make threats of violence and all sorts of horrible derogatory statements, actually just openly calling people Nazis and calling people trash and calling people horrible slurs and stuff, and even racist slurs, and they won't do anything. But it's as long as those racist slurs and those horrible statements are made against Trump supporters and Republicans, that's when they're cool with it. If it's
Yeah.
anyone else, then you're done. You're punished.
Yeah.
You're out. They don't care about hate. They just want you to hate their desired, targets. That's all it
Yeah.
is. And she
Yeah.
doesn't. So they were like, we're going to get her out at some point, and we're going to get her ass at some point here.
Yeah.
And they chose this particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me makes no damn sense. But hey, it was their choice to be like to jump on that and go, all right, this is too much. We have to fire you.
So, long story short, we're going to have more content to talk about with the discovery phase of all this.
Oh yeah, no, it's an ongoing thing, and we'll see what ends up happening with regards to
Yeah, so you will be seeing us going back into this pool again at some
yeah.
point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of dismal Disney, once again, shout out to Clownfish TV. Here's an article centered around another issue Disney is facing. America First Legal files federal civil rights complaint against the Walt Disney Company for illegal race and sex discrimination.
Yep.
Are you familiar with American Legal? America First Legal.
Sure. No, I know they're sort of a advocacy agency, legal advocacy agency for people that get treated like shit over cancel culture matters.
Yeah. So, long story short, Disney has their inclusion standards business practices right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which are horribly sexist and racist against straight white males or a lot of people, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's actually just really anyone that's classified as wrong thinker.
Yeah.
So
Again, like we were talking about earlier, like Gina Carano.
mm-hmm.
But specifically, you and I would never be hired at Disney because we're straight white males.
Yeah, no, I mean, really,
that's racist and sexist.
It is pretty much the truth, but we're also definitely wrong thinkers. And honestly, I wouldn't take a job with them even if they offered me one.
But also more than that, even if you had a job like in creative leadership tab here, you wouldn't be getting promoted because you're straight white male
and wrong thinker.
Yeah, and you probably, if you even had a job there would be no job growth for you whatsoever. You would be stuck like cleaning toilets or some shit.
No, I'd actually hate to be a principled, smart individual working for that company. I would hate to be that because you'll get abused, you'll get treated like shit, you get talked down to, you probably get called racial slurs, you get called all sorts of names, and you will get left in the cold and not promoted and not appreciated. In fact, you'd be probably treated like shit until you actually relented and finally quit. That's the way you'd be treated at that company.
Yeah. So yeah. And the reason I'm scrolling up and down is after the fact, if you guys want to pause the video and read all of this for yourself, go for it. So with all of that in mind, yeah, Disney is also dealing with all that too.
Mm-hmm.
And rightly so, because they deserve it for their DEI or DIE or whatever the fuck it's called. Bullshit.
Yeah, no, and it's essentially it's mind control.
Yeah.
It's an attempt at mind control.
Indeed.
And thought policing.
As the saying goes, go woke, go broke. Or, as I like to say, be awake, not woke. Get some coffee with values. Anyway.
Yep.
Any thoughts on any of that Disney bullshit before we get to what the developer of Baldur's Gate 3 said at the DICE Awards?
No, I would just say I hope Disney gets her ass kicked.
Yeah, well, they don't have a leg to stand on with any of this because they're guilty of all that bullshit.
I mean, I know the court system is broken. Is broken as anything else right now.
Yeah.
But,
But as it is, though. So, at the DICE Awards, the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 had some very interesting things to say about the mainstream gaming industry. Are you ready for this, bro?
Sure.
So, here we go. By the way, the DICE Awards, from my understanding, is a developer award show, developers honoring one another for great games that they made throughout the year or the previous year, right?
Yep.
And Baldur's Gate 3 won the Game of the Year award at the DICE Awards, much like they won at Jeff Keighley's Woke Awards, right?
Yep.
But this is what the developers had to say when accepting the award.
This is existential to us, as you can tell from all the emotion on David's face. We're very lucky. We've had a lot of stage time.
By the way, go subscribe to Playtime's PC on YouTube because they shared this video out.
Others are not so lucky. This is a really human industry, and we're really bad sometimes at showing developers what they're worth and showing the players at home that we care about them. It's kind of the elephant in the room, especially surrounded by all this opulence, which, can only go so far. Without people, we would not be standing here. Without the people that work in these games, we would not be standing here. Many, many people will let go at the start of this year. I want you all to know that you are talented and that you matter and that you are the future of this industry. Don't let that flame be extinguished by our collective mistakes. I know that everyone here is scared because shit's really fucked up. All of your projections are wrong, and it's scary. But we persevere as an industry, we will persevere as an industry, and you will all find your place, and you will all be welcomed back with open arms, and we'll still be making games for the players and for you, and with these guys. So.
To add to that, a lot of people probably want to know what's the secret to your success. Last year, I started thinking the secret to our success is the decisions that we make come from what does the player want? What do I think is best for the game? What is the most fun? What is the most crazy? People telling us we shouldn't do this, or we can't do it, or this is too challenging or too hard, like it was already said here today. That usually just gives us a kick up the arse to actually make it happen. The stuff that we make at Larian is we ask you to pay one price only for the game, and that's it. You can own it for the rest of your life. We don't have shareholders, but we also don't think about them. And we think there's an expression in Dutch that honesty lasts longest or something. There's probably a version in English as well that makes a lot of sense. But what we have tried in the last 20 years is to treat people.
That would be honesty is the best policy, I believe, right?
Sure, that would be the English version of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
People like we would like to be treated ourselves as players, as gamers. So we don't make decisions where we think this could make us the most money. On the long run, building a community, building a player base, building games that are actually fun is going to make you the most money. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the extent of everything that they said at the DICE Awards. Your thoughts, bro?
Sure, this is what a good game developer of yesteryear. This is what it seemed. This is the way they used to be. This sentiment is exactly the way they used to be.
And that prompted me that same day to buy Baldur's Gate 3 for the PS5, which I'll be playing live on Drudat Games. Hopefully at some point today I'll get started on that. But yeah, I understand from the developer why they're winning all these awards at that point.
Well, they're winning awards because the game's great. All right, that's the primary reason. They're surely not winning awards because they're satisfying like corporate overlords or anything.
Yeah,
they're winning awards because they're doing games right.
As they said in that video, they're winning awards essentially for making something gamers want to play. And as he said in that, we don't have corporate overlords to bow down to. When you buy our game, you own it.
Yeah.
Go play it on YouTube. Go play it on Twitch. It's that simple. Imagine that. Something so simple can work so well. buy a game, play it. You won't get nickeled and dimed into oblivion like with EA or all these other mainstream developers.
Yep.
Hopefully, this will be a turning point for the gaming industry, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I'll probably suffocate to death.
Yeah, and it's because there's a lot of overinflated ego business people at the top of those companies that think that, making the absolute most money imaginable is the way that you should be a gaming company. Whereas the developer guys at the bottom are just like, I just want to make a good game. Can we make a good game, guys? Can we focus on making a good game, please?
Yeah.
And the upper people are like, no. We have to make it diverse. We have to make it appeal to a broader audience. We have to make it a modern sensibilities. We have to make it like,
We have
DEI,
to We have to make as much money as we can, so let's nickel and dime the gamers into oblivion with microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
On top of spending like $150 for the base game, which is not even feature complete because of day one DLC.
Yep. Yeah, no, the cross purposes that the developer community and the corporate ownership community of these companies have been at for the last almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Is it came to a head, honestly. I mean, it really did. And it's so refreshing to see a gaming development group or crew or whatever you want to call these guys, team, I guess.
A studio, yeah.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to see them just want to make a good game and just get on with it. Instead of having to get hung up on how important they think they are and stroke themselves off on camera for 25 minutes like Kojima always does. Like, I wish that every developer was this way, but I know that it's something that has mostly gone away, and it needs to come back, of course. But just like everything else that's good that went away, it's sometimes not coming back.
Indeed.
In fact, with that level of sentiment from those guys, I would expect a lot of the industry guys to put them on a shit list. Just for saying all of that, just for them being like pure developers who just want to make a good game. I'm sure there are people in the industry who hate them just for that, because those people believe that they need to be using their platform to spread the message, as Drinker always says. That's the majority of the industry. They believe in the message, and they believe you need to spend all of your efforts spreading the message, instead of actually making good games. Like, they don't care about the good game aspect. They just need to make sure that your game and every game in the industry has the message in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
with that,
if anything, I think they drew a target on their backs. I mean, but at the same time, us guys are looking at that going, yeah, that's the way a developing team should be. That's the way a game developer team should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why did we ever get away from that? Honestly.
So, with that in mind, what was the topic that you were talking about at the top?
Oh, I was talking about the complete and utter cinematic failure of Madam Web.
Oh, yes, Madam Web.
Yeah.
Well, what about Madam Web?
Well, let's put it this way. In case you weren't already insulted enough by that whole, rigmarole involving what's his side character? I freaking forgot. In the more recent Spider-Man titles. But no, now they went and they basically, okay, he's like, Ghostbusters 2016, right? You familiar with that? You're familiar with what was wrong with that title? You're familiar with what happened in theaters and the critic reviews and the revenue from the film and basically everything. You're familiar with everything that went wrong with that film, right? And you're familiar.
There was only 4 Ghostbusters films. What are you talking about?
No. Well, no, I mean, that's fine to feel that way. I'm just saying that the thing was an abomination. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and an absolute deliberate insult to anyone who was a Ghostbusters fan, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much what Madam Web is for Spider-Man. We're going to just make up a bunch of characters in order to tell you, the normal Spider-Man audience, that your original Spider-Man fucking sucks, and fuck you for liking him. And our new glorious female Spider-Man is so much better because reasons. And frankly, you could not be more insulting than they were with this film. I mean, this film is literally like, it's deliberately yelling at people who were like the summer fans of Spider-Man 2. It's literally yelling at those people, the Sam Raimi fans, to go fuck yourself. Like, literally,
Yeah.
just you go fuck yourself. That's what
Yeah.
this movie does and says in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like absolutely an insult to Spider-Man fans and Spider-Man as an intellectual property.
Yeah.
It's just like, we can make your precious Spider-Man into anything we want, and we don't care, and we think ours is better. And despite the fact their writing sucks, as usual, their writing always sucks.
Yep.
And they don't know how to write any good characters, especially female characters, man. I swear, it's just like, if it isn't like some OP shit where she can do anything for no logical reason, or it's she's special because she's female. Like, they always have that shit in these films. Like, it's never like a really touching, well-built character story. It's never like an actual plot that means shit. There's never anything really compelling about it, unless you're, of course, politically in agreement with the movie and the whole message aspect. Like, there's nothing there. It's just devoid of soul. There's nothing. And
Yep.
it's so sad to watch them continue to do this shit to, otherwise beloved, characters, and otherwise, and they could make good movies with this stuff. It's not bad fodder for film. It really isn't bad. It's just that they make it bad because they don't know what they're doing. All they
Yep.
care about is the political aspect. That's literally all that matters. And I mean, like, they look at demographics, and it's like, did they not notice that, like, the Spider-Man with Tom Holland, the Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, like, those movies are loved by, like, everybody, right? Especially the Sam Raimi trilogy. I mean, who doesn't like Spider-Man 2? Honestly, I wouldn't trust somebody that doesn't like Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, and that includes the video game too. But
Which was on PS2, yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying. So
Not to be confused with the Spider-Man 2 that I call Spider Woke.
yeah,
or,
no, yeah,
or Spider Woke 2, if you will.
yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, we've witnessed this shit with so many different IPs, right? I mean, Star Wars is probably the biggest one they did this crap to.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of now doing it with Spider-Man. It's like just the last in a long line, and it's just I just think it's all a very sad situation, and it sucks that we have to, like, do this to perfectly good plots that could be good. We have to sit here and watch them, like, make it bad for no reason. But I don't know. It's getting what it deserves because it's a film with literally nothing but a gigantic middle finger for every male audience member.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so, and it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be, we're trying to write good female characters, therefore we have to insult the male audience. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Dudes love good female characters when they're written right.
Yep.
Like, where did they get the idea that, like, male audiences don't like female heroes? When the hell did they get that delusion? It's just not true. Like, at no point have we ever said, "Oh, well, that's a female. I don't want to watch this movie. There's a female there." Like, what? That's literally been said by no one ever. So I don't know where they got that idea. You know. But if the movie's basically like, hey, male audience member, fuck you, then we're going to be like, oh, okay, fuck me, huh? I guess I'll leave then, huh? You know? I mean, they tell you off and then they act all shocked that you walked away. It's like, I'm going to walk away every time somebody tells me to go fuck myself. It's just a human reaction, man.
Speaking of people telling groups of people to go fuck themselves, Tom McDonald says that all the time to the music industry and to anyone who goes woke and goes broke. So, yesterday, Tom McDonald dropped The Machine, which is the first track from the album Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
And before I play just a snippet of it here, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I think it was kind of like right along with everything else he's made. It was very similar.
Yeah.
It felt right at home on his albums, really. I mean, it's similar stuff. I mean, he's saying a lot of the same things he usually does. He's big on talking about how oppressive the system is. So, I mean, it's kind of his shtick, you know.
I also know that Armando from Pew Pew Nation, who also regularly appears on the YouTube channel of Freedom to Think, mentioned this song from the album and hoping that Tom releases a video for it. Well, here you are, Armando.
Yeah.
I guess your wish is Tom's command. I don't think it works that way, but
it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
The system built to enslave us only works if we're afraid. I am not Republican. I am not a liberal. Progressive and traditional are hitmen hired to kill the individuals. They label people red or blue, divide us. They don't ever help. They want you thinking left or right, so you ain't thinking for yourself. Go ahead and vote, because both the parties are the same side. Two teams, one coach, controlled by the same guys.
Yeah. Globalists is the word for it. Bro.
Yeah, it's a true statement. There's not, if we're talking about the establishment of the two parties, there's not much daylight between them. And they are funded by the same exact people on both ends.
The ruling elite that want to control the everyday person like you and I, they don't give a fuck about us whatsoever. All they care about is their own pocketbook and their own power. That's it. Anything you want to add?
Oh, no. That's pretty much what he was saying there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Left wing, right wing, both help the same bird fly, brainwashing everybody at the same time. The internet was once a place that we could get our facts from. Now it's been monopolized. It's Google or it's Amazon. Who fact checking the fact checkers? I can answer that one. The people who control the narratives through the platforms.
Yep.
And then that's another good point, that fact checking as an institution was created primarily to be counter prop. Not to actually really get to the bottom of what's really the truth there. It's not about the truth. It's about convincing people of things.
Yeah.
All the media's fake. I swear the government hates us. Having opinions is dangerous. The system built to enslave us only works if we're afraid. I am not Republican. I am not a liberal. I am just a man who knows they're scared of a nation that's thinking critical. They kill us or they lock us up for nothing like we're criminals. Divide us because they know that unified we are invincible. Questioning the government's agenda is controversial, but promoting guns and liquor in our music is commercial. They're confusing us with pronouns they made up to make us triggered. You can call me what you want, but just don't call me late for dinner. School teaches you to learn and never teaches you to think. So you absorb misinformation, then you practice what they preach. You ain't free. Can't you see that's how they want you to act? It's called conforming to the norm. You don't need freedom for that. I'm not
Yeah, that reminds me of when we were in school, we were taught one thing about our founders, right?
Yeah. Well, that was primarily.
And then in looking into this after school as an adult, you find out all this host of other stuff about like George Washington and so on and so forth that you were never taught in school at all.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that they, They act like they don't have the time to go over complicated matters. The problem is that there are certain matters that they don't want to get into. They don't want to actually discuss.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
there's also the entire design of the modern public education system was never to be an actual education system. It was a conformance system. It was in order to make uniform good workers, firstly, which they went away from that mission quite a long time ago now, towards obedient.
yeah.
It's nothing more than obedience training, is what it is.
Yeah.
And the difference between public education 100 years ago and public education today is what they want you to obey. That's the difference. They used to want you to obey, the conformity towards, your employer and your family and things like, your daily life.
Yeah.
Now they want you to conform to party loyalty, especially Democrat Party loyalty, and the national media's narrative about what the direction of politics in the United States should be. That's what they want you to conform to in public education.
Yeah.
That's why everything you learn in history class is all cookie cutter bullshit, and oftentimes it's just straight false.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it out with some of my teachers about what they teach, and it's really just not cool sometimes.
Yeah, like as an example of what I was talking about earlier about George Washington, in school you're taught, yeah, he was a slave owner, he was this, he was that. Meanwhile, in doing your own research, I've come to discover that amongst his contemporaries as slave owners, he treated his slaves a hell of a lot better than his contemporaries, almost like they were family. Not torturing them, not doing all these horrible, vile shit like most slave owners would have
Sure,
done.
not to mention almost his entire slave employ was inherited from his wife, because his wife was initially the wealthy one.
Yeah, and then eventually his wife went before she died, set him all free.
Yeah, no, and he actually did the same thing too. And the other thing is, like, okay, you can't engage in presentism. You can't engage in, well, oh, I wouldn't do that today. Oh, that's horrible. It's like, you understand that social norms of the era dictated certain things.
We are bound by the social norms of the times that we are living in.
Correct, because 100 years from now, there will be things that we considered commonplace and we did all the time that they would consider horrible aggressions and horrible, how could you do that? How could you do that? You're horrible. Like,
and
that's just the way history is.
But in the modern day, we also have what some people are trying to push as social norms, like drag queens reading story time to kindergartners.
There's that. That's the whole degeneracy aspect of modern life.
Which, that's not normal. That's just sick and disgusting. And I don't have the time or patience for sick freaks out there.
Yeah, I don't really either.
Welcome to that underground.
But my point was, though, it's like, if you think about it, it's not a whole lot different than, like, say, if you were to put someone from the Renaissance era and stand them right next to somebody from 2022.
Yeah.
Okay, just the dress differences alone and the cultural norms alone. This is actually a reverse example, which is funny. There's a lot of social norms and a lot of habits and a lot of ways of being and a lot of, especially fashion in that regard, that the person from the old time would be absolutely appalled looking at the current day person. And then there are ways that the current day person would be appalled by that other person from long ago, right? So again, that they don't share norms, they don't share mores, they don't share opinions because they're not from the same era. Okay.
Yeah.
And people have to stop engaging in stupid presentism to sit there and say, oh, well, I'm offended therefore it's wrong. It's like your sensibilities are current. The sensibilities they had were not current sensibilities.
Yeah.
So you have to say, okay, what was socially abnormal back then? Okay. Was it socially abnormal back then to be a slave owner? No, not really. It's kind of a status symbol, actually. It's horrible when we today look at it. It's horrible to consider owning another person and putting them to work for free and all that other stuff. That's horrible in our current standard. But back then, it was a status symbol. Okay. So the wealthy tended to do that because it was a status symbol. It was a sign that you had money. Okay. Which we still do that shit today. It's just different. We still have status symbols. We still, frankly, I think like the electric car thing right now, to me, is going to be a big one in the future, where they look back on people who owned electric cars in this era and would go, "Oh my God, what an absolute terrible person!" Just from the battery mineral harvesting and all that horrible slavery going on in third world countries over it. They were going to look back and say, "How could you possibly justify owning one of those horrible things?" Right? Meanwhile, our current society considers them a status symbol. It's exactly the same thing. As far as I can tell, it's exactly the same. Now, anyway, so my point is, this is not explained in school. Okay. All that's given in school is we're going to stop right now in today's moment and say, let's judge all of history for how we feel right now. So everything in the future is good because it's possibly way more progressive than we are now. And everything in the past is bad because it's not as progressive as we are today. And of course, they base the whole moral ethic on what's progressive and what's not progressive.
Yeah.
Of course.
Nowadays, anyone says something is progressive, it's actually turned out to be regressive.
No, yeah, no, I know that, and that's kind of my point. But I just don't think that people quite understand what's going on.
Yeah.
With education, and it's not so much lies as guilt by omission. So like when someone doesn't tell you something they need to be telling you, right?
Yeah.
Not so much that what they're telling you is completely false. I mean, obviously,
In some cases, that's not the case, but
obviously we're not going to sit here and say. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and say that all of the unethical and immoral things that went on in the past were actually good. We're not going to sit here and say that stupid shit.
No.
But we're also not going to sit here and pretend like if we went back, we wouldn't have done those things. No, we would, because those were socially normal and we would have strived for them ourselves if we were there. And we'd be dishonest to say otherwise.
And we're also not going to sit here and tell you that back then everybody was racist, everybody was this, everybody was that. First of all, we don't know that.
Well, the first problem is that that's viewing history through the entire lens of racism to begin with, which is a false lens to view all of history through in the first place.
And like I said about George Washington earlier, amongst his contemporaries, he treated his slaves a lot closer to actual employees than most of his contemporaries.
Sure, and not to mention, I mean, we can all understand the concept of treating someone like family versus treating them like a stranger, right? We understand this concept, right?
Yeah.
And what people have to remember is that a lot of his slaves were treated like family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your point is. But my point is like, look, if you're dealing with, first of all, a minority concept at the time, just like high-end commercial goods are today, not everybody has a big white yacht. Not everybody has a Bugatti. Not everybody has those super duper luxury things, right? But what you have to remember is that slaves back then were the super duper luxury thing that only wealthy men had.
And it wasn't just white slave owners either. There were black ones too.
Oh, sure. That's another point. And then there's, of course, the whole discussion of the North Atlantic slave trade, which is completely ulterior to this conversation. But the point being is that history is not given nuance or context or its proper, framing. It's always false, shallow, vain, stupid, currently concerned framing for everything they discuss in school. Everything they discuss is so shallow and stupid. And so naturally, which also is detectable, and students who are in this system sense the shallowness and the stupidity and the sort of variable morality, or even what you might call like relativism of this education you're being given. The moral relativism is just immense, and also, like I said, the presentism is just appalling too. So,
Yeah.
the long story short here is you're not being given an education; you're being given an obedience training in public schools, and
For
if you
programming.
don't obey, you fail, and if you do
Yeah.
obey, you succeed. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
So, with that in mind, for those that will be in the comments later, if you call us anything, and as I said, this is a free speech zone, breaking rocks, you can call us whatever you want. But above all else, what you should be calling us are truth seekers. Because in case you can't tell yet, Desert Nord and I are big fans of studying history. History
Yeah.
buffs, if you will, right?
Sure, I definitely enjoy studying history.
Yeah. Well, that was my
Fascinating.
favorite class in school. So, case in point, when I was in high school, I didn't take notes in history class. Why? Because I didn't need to, and I still got an A+ on every test.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, thank you guys for tuning in. Where can people find you, Nord?
Well, my YouTube channel is ignored.
And
then
also on
there's
X.
Twitter. Yep,
Yeah.
Twitter. X. Yep.
And you can find me on Twitter as DrewDat Underground or DrewDat Games. I don't remember anymore. One of the two. Or just simply by the handle of @DatDrew over there. You can find me obviously here, DrewDat Underground, the channel you're watching right now. DrewDat Games as well for my gaming content, which I will try to be live today to play some Baldur's Gate. I also want to get to playing Pal World because I started playing that yesterday, and I'm already at a point where I need to find some food, and I need to see if I can kill one of those Pokemon knockoff chickens to see if I can eat it. Because my character is starving. So I need to figure out how to find food. What a surprise that my character in the game is already starving to death.
Well, you need to kill pals. That's what you need to do.
Yes, I kind of figured that's the case, but I didn't know if that mechanic was in the game that you could kill them and eat them.
Yep, they drop food.
Okay, well then I'm gonna stop debating it. I'm gonna go kill that chicken.
Yeah, dude. It's actually rather horrific. The game is actually rather horrific. If we're being honest.
Well, first of all, it's a Pokemon knockoff with guns.
Yeah, I know.
The pals use guns. Yeah. Yep. Pikachu with an automatic rifle.
And they're absolute savages too. They're absolute savages, man.
Yeah. I've gotten that from watching Heel versus Babyface play it. But as it is, stay tuned for some Powell from me. Stay tuned for Baldur's Gate. I'll be doing that. And also, I created just recently a character to play in a Drew play of Skyrim called Saggy Sales or Sloppy Sales or something like that. Who is based off of someone whom we call Brandon. Yeah.
Yes, I wonder who that could be.
Case in point, a pirate or a thief, if you will, who's not any good at any of it. In other words, the common theme will be he ends up in jail at some point in every episode. So that's going to be coming soon to DrewDat GMS on Twitch, and then later to DrewDat Games on Rumble and YouTube, respectively. Just like this will be on Rumble later as well. with that in mind, hope you guys enjoy our sit down and discussion about Disney, Tom McDonald, and the developer of Baldur's Gate 3 and what they had to say to the gaming industry. We'll see you guys hopefully next Saturday, or at some point soon, depending on if we got anything to talk about that comes up in the week. Until then, be safe, be well, and always remember, fuck Naughty Dog, fuck Insomniac. Raylos are weird, if that even is relevant anymore. Fuck Disney. And fuck everything now that I think of it.
Yeah.
George Carlin, we miss you.
Yeah, the old Carlin bit, yes.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yep, see you guys.
And God bless, as always.
Yep.